Everywhere you look, there are growing issues around men wanting to be treated as women and how society seems to be turning itself inside out to go along with this fiction. We've seen male rapists locked up in women's prisons because they claim to be female. And then there's an assortment of bureaucrats that keep telling us that men can get pregnant. It's mind-numbingly stupid stuff. And as a result of it, the fight to protect women's only spaces is ramping up. Now the battle for common sense is becoming a legal one. This week, the federal court heard initial proceedings in a human rights claim brought against Sall Grover. She's the founder and CEO of Giggle, a female social networking app. Joining me now to discuss it is the CEO of Women's Forum Australia, Rachael Wong. Rachel, welcome to Bernardi. For those who aren't familiar with this case, can you explain what's happened here?
Hi Cory. So basically we have a man named Roxy Tickle who has brought a human rights claim against Sall for refusing to let him use her female-only networking app Giggle. Now he has claimed that she has discriminated against him on the basis of his gender identity, where in fact she's excluded him on the basis of his sex. Both of these are protected attributes under the Sex Discrimination Act, so you can see we have a clear collision of rights between women and those who claim gender identity.
Yeah, I just got to say, this strikes me as completely absurd, that simply because a bloke says, I am now identifying as a woman, you can be put into a woman's prison instead of a man's prison. And now they want to invade safe spaces for women. The reason you've got a woman-only app is because they want to get away from predatory men and a whole bunch of other terrible things, maybe just talk about stuff that women only want to talk about. Why do these blokes have to try and invade these safe spaces?
Look, I completely agree with you. It is absurd, and to any reasonable person, this would be seen for what it is: intimidation and harassment. You know, a male trying to access a woman-only space. And we've seen this all over Australia. We've seen it all over the world when it comes to places like prisons, like hospital wards, like refuges, and we've seen countless stories of harm now, ranging from women being sexually assaulted to women being excluded from their own sports, to women facing human rights claims, loss of employment and abuse for saying that men cannot be women. Why they want to access these spaces? Well, I'm sure there are a whole host of reasons, but in order to protect the rights and safety of women, it's incredibly important that women's sex-based rights are upheld, and this is what this case is hopefully going to do. It's hopefully going to reclaim the sex-based rights of women and girls under federal law. And what's actually really interesting is that because the Sex Discrimination Act was enacted using constitutional powers, which are arguably invalid because there's no protection for gender identity in international law, this could actually render invalid the gender identity protections across all Australian states and territories. So this is actually potentially a massive case for women's rights and for women's sex-based protections. And I know that there are women and girls all across Australia who are cheering Sall on in this case.
Yeah, and you know, there are blokes that are cheering it on too, people like me. Rachel, you took the words out of my mouth. This has massive implications for every woman in Australia, because every woman in Australia, because if the court finds one way, you don't have any safe spaces effectively left that are open only to you. If it finds another way, it renders this nonsensical absurdity that we can just accept someone claiming to be something that they're not. We can render it mute, which I think is probably a step in the right direction.